When you think about the great point guards and post players that our game, not just our league, but our game has seen, they are going to go down in history as the greatest.
Stephanie White stood on the Gainbridge Fieldhouse court in November 2024, back where she had started nearly a decade earlier. Same building, same franchise, same hometown roots running deep through Indianapolis. But everything else was completely different. In 2015, White inherited a championship-tested roster led by Tamika Catchings, one of the greatest players in WNBA history. They reached the finals in her first season. In 2024, she returned to coach Caitlin Clark, the most hyped rookie in league history, and lead a team that hadn't won a playoff game in 8 years. One job was about maintaining excellence. The other is about building it from scratch while the entire basketball world watches every single move. Here's the thing nobody talks about when it comes to coaching a generational talent. It's about managing expectations no human being can meet, handling organizational pressure that never stops, and dealing with the reality that every decision you make will be examined under a microscope. Stephanie White signed up for all of that when she came back to Indiana. White is Indiana basketball royalty. She led Purdue to the 1999 NCAA championship and was part of the Fever's 2012 championship coaching staff.
And I'm excited about the opportunity to work with them. I'm excited about the opportunity that we have to build from those starting points and build out, and for the longevity that those two could have in Indiana, in Indianapolis, and hanging banners in this building. All of those things are so exciting. The future's really bright, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
When Lynn Dunn retired in 2015, White was promoted to head coach. Her first season went well. The Fever finished 20-14 and reached the WNBA Finals, losing to Minnesota in 5 games. Her overall record was 37-31, with a 6-6 mark in the playoffs before she left for Vanderbilt in 2016. The college stint didn't go well. Over 5 seasons at Vanderbilt, White finished 46-83, which made people question her coaching ability. But in 2023, the Connecticut Sun gave her another chance. She won Coach of the Year after a 27-13 season, then went 28-12 the next year. Her 55-25 record over 2 seasons proved she could coach at the highest level, especially on defense. The Sun led the league in defensive rating both years. When the Sun and White parted ways after 2024, the Fever immediately hired her to replace Christy Sides. White wanted to come home, and the Fever wanted someone who could develop Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston into champions.
News: Caitlin Clark. Following a July 15th injury to her right groin, Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark underwent further medical evaluations earlier this week. The team can confirm that no additional injuries or damage were discovered through the evaluations. Clark will continue working with the Fever medical team on her recovery and rehabilitation, with the priority on her long-term health and well-being. There is no timetable available for Clark's return, and no additional details will be provided at this time. Any further updates will be shared as they become available.
When White coached the Fever the first time, she was working with a team that already knew how to win. Tamika Catchings was in her 14th season, a 10-time All-Star, the 2011 MVP, a 2012 champion, and someone who had already been to the finals multiple times. Breanne January was a seasoned veteran. White's job was to manage egos and squeeze one more championship run out of an aging roster. She nearly pulled it off, making it to Game 5 of the finals. Now, White is facing something completely different. Clark and Boston are both in the early stages of their careers. They're learning how to win against players who are bigger, stronger, and more experienced. The rest of the roster is a mix of young players trying to establish themselves and veterans looking for one last shot at a ring. This isn't a team built on championship experience. It's a team trying to learn what championship basketball even looks like. The pressure is different too. In 2015, the Fever were expected to compete, but nobody thought they were favorites. This time, the expectations are enormous.
Caitlin Clark's team has made it known we are going to be holding her out until she is fully recovered. We are not going to be rushing her back at all. After taking Indiana Fever's advice, eventually Caitlin Clark needs to matters into her own hands, make decisions for herself, and I believe that's what we are seeing with the team that she now has surrounding her.
Clark is the most popular player in women's basketball history. Every game is sold out. Media coverage is constant. The organization wants results now, not in 3 years. One major reason the Fever brought White back is her defensive philosophy. The Sun led the WNBA in defensive rating in 2024 and ranked second in 2023. The Fever, meanwhile, ranked 11th out of 12 teams under Christy Sides. If White can make an immediate impact, it's on defense. White's approach is built on toughness and physicality. She wants her teams to impose their will on opponents. That worked perfectly in Connecticut with players like Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner. But the question is whether it works with a Fever roster built around Clark's offensive brilliance. People who've worked with White say she's honest and blunt. She'll tell you exactly what needs to change. With young players like Clark in Boston, you have to balance criticism with encouragement. Push too hard and you risk damaging confidence. Go too easy and they don't improve.
The people are speculating that Caitlin Clark injury could be much worse than expected. You know, these type of injuries and the way she's been getting these injuries is not normal to have these strains back to back to back like this. And I said this before, Caitlin Clark's mobility is off, bro. I believe she might have came back too fast from the first. We all know the first one went down around the 25th of May. Then she came back and got re-injured around the 4th of July to the 5th, somewhere up in there of July. And then that brings us until now.
White's high-energy approach can build strong relationships, but it can also create complications if things go wrong. To understand the challenge she faces, look at Cheryl Reeve and the Minnesota Lynx. Reeve took over in 2010 after a 13-21 season. The Lynx won the draft lottery and selected Maya Moore with the first overall pick in 2011. That year, they went 27-7 and won the championship. Reeve was named Coach of the Year in her second season. But Moore wasn't the only piece. The Lynx also had Simone Augustus, the number 1 pick in 2006, who was already a star. They had Lindsay Whalen at point guard and Rebecca Brunson in the front court. Reeve didn't just coach Moore. She coached a roster full of talent that fit together perfectly. The Lynx won 4 championships between 2011 and 2017, and Reeve is now considered one of the greatest coaches in WNBA history. White is trying to build something similar in Indiana, except the pieces around Clark and Boston are still being figured out. Reeve had stability, front office support, and a roster built to win immediately. White has more question marks and less margin for error. In the WNBA, if something isn't working, you have maybe half a season to fix it before the front office starts looking for someone else.
She has met with a different doctor. And she won't even give an update to the team. Not, oh yeah, you know, she's met with a different doctor and we're waiting on an update. She's waiting, or not even, well, that's basically it. They're waiting on, oh, she's gone to a different doctor and they've heard nothing.
Nothing illustrates the complexity of White's job better than what happened with DeWanna Bonner. The 2-time WNBA champion and 6-time All-Star played for White in Connecticut and followed her to Indiana in February 2025. It seemed like a perfect fit. Bonner knew White's system and had averaged 15 points per game in 2024. But things went wrong immediately. Bonner was benched after 3 games. In 9 appearances, she averaged 7.1 points on 34.5% shooting, the worst numbers of her 16-year career. By mid-June, she stepped away for personal reasons. Reports said she wanted out, preferring Phoenix or Atlanta. On June 25th, the Fever waived her. The most likely explanation is simple. Bonner didn't fit. The Fever need players who can space the floor and convert the opportunities Clark creates. At this stage of her career, Bonner wasn't the athlete she once was. White recognized the fit wasn't right and moved on. When Bonner returned to Indianapolis with Phoenix, White handled it professionally, saying she was glad Bonner was happy. But the episode raised questions. If White missed on this decision, what else might she misjudge? Can she build the right roster around Clark? The hardest part of White's job isn't the X's and O's. It's managing Caitlin Clark. Clark averaged over 19 points and 8 assists as a rookie, while dealing with more defensive attention than any first-year player in WNBA history. She's already one of the faces of a sport, but she still turns the ball over too much, and her defense needs improvement. White's job is to help Clark grow in those areas while still allowing her to play with the creativity and aggression that make her special. White talks about an offensive philosophy built on pace, instinct, and maximizing strengths. In practice, that means trusting Clark to make plays while holding her accountable when they don't work. It means designing an offense that showcases Clark without making everyone else stand and watch. It means keeping her engaged defensively, even though that's not what made her famous. On top of all that, White has to manage the spotlight. Every time Clark has a bad game, people blame the coach. Every decision White makes is analyzed by thousands of fans and media members who think they know better. That comes with coaching the most popular player in the league. The results of White's first season back in Indiana tell a complicated story. The Fever finished 24-20 and made the playoffs for the second straight year. They won the Commissioner's Cup and beat Atlanta in the first round before losing to Las Vegas in the semifinals. Those are respectable results, especially considering Clark missed more than half the season with injuries and the roster dealt with constant lineup changes. But the question is whether it's enough given the expectations. The Fever want championships, not first-round wins. They have everything needed to become a dynasty, 2 number-1 overall picks, a passionate fan base, and resources most WNBA teams don't. What they need is time for these young players to develop, make mistakes, and learn how to win together. But the pressure for immediate results is enormous. The league has never seen this level of attention on a single team. Sponsors want wins. Fans expect titles. The front office knows there's a limited window to capitalize on Clark's popularity. White is stuck in the middle. She has to coach for the future while delivering results now. She has to develop young players while beating veteran-loaded teams. She has to install a defensive system while keeping the offense flowing through Clark. The Bonner situation shows White is willing to make tough decisions quickly. That's good, but it also creates uncertainty. Players need to know their coach has their back. If they think they could be gone after a few bad games, trust becomes harder to build. Stephanie White's job with the Indiana Fever might be the hardest coaching job in professional basketball right now. She's trying to build a championship contender around a generational talent while managing organizational pressure, media scrutiny, and expectations no team could realistically meet in one season. The comparison to what Cheryl Reeve built in Minnesota is tempting, but Reeve had better pieces around Maya Moore and far more stability. White has the resume. She's proven she can coach defense, develop players, and win at the highest level. But success with the Fever will require more than coaching skill. It will require patience from ownership, growth from young players, and the ability to make difficult decisions without second-guessing herself. Whether she can pull it all together remains to be seen.